Hello, guys. Welcome back. So we are looking today at AWS Athena today, and this is the introduction section to the architecture. So let's start with the architecture. So what is Amazon Athena? It's an interactive query service to analyze data in Amazon S3 using standard SQL. No infrastructure to set up or manage, and no data to load. It does not store any data in itself. It's just a query service and does not require any server. It's serverless. So it query instantly with a zero setup cost. Just point to an S3 bucket and start the query. It's a pay per query service, so you only pay for the queries that are run, and you can save a large amount of money, from 30 to 90% on the queries through compression. So that's why we would want to compress it to Parquet, and it's an open. So it's based on an ANSI SQL interface, JBC, OBC drivers, multiple formats, compression types, and complex joins and data types. This is more or less due to the data catalog on top, and it's easy, serverless, no infrastructure, integrated well with Amazon QuickSight. So the familiar technologies which are used, it's a mix of Presto and Hive. Presto is used for the SQL queries, in-memory distribution query engine, ANSI SQL compatible with extensions, and the Hive for the DDL functionality, and it includes complex data types, multitude of formats. It is cost effective. It's a pay per query, and every charge is per query, but the charges are very minimal. $5 per terabyte scanned from S3. So let's say if you have just tens of gigabytes per query, it is very cost effective. It's based on DDL queries, and failed queries are free. So let's say you fired a query and failed to free, and it could happen sometimes. And Athena can be slow based on design and amount of data that it will scan on the results. So those kind of failed queries are free. And finally, save by using compression, columnar format, and partitions. So with partition, you could do a columnar partition and using Parquet partitions. And log analysis pipeline. So this is one of the most common use cases, I would say, for using Athena. The architecture-wise, if you see, you could have the raw data, then you could have structured data converted to ETL, and then you stage it. This is generally a life cycle for an ELT type of processing, and particularly if you're using a data warehouse kind of scenarios. So once you stage the data, you use Apache Spark infrastructure, and then you'll be able to load it into final tables. And these final tables could be in Redshift or some kind of other data warehouse repository. And finally, using Presto SQL and then be queried through SQL. So what happens in a similar manner on AWS infrastructure is that the same kind of data structure where you stage it into the S3, and then you would use Glue, which is built on top of Spark. So you could data catalog, and finally you'll be able to have a bucket where you have curated data through ETL jobs. And once your created files or data, then you could use Athena, which is built on top of Presto for your analysis, and then you could use SQL to fire the queries on top of it. And this is also in Hive. So this is for the log analysis data. This is a sample architecture data for log analysis, and this is to show you how AWS maps the data and how Athena is a good fit for these use cases. And what kind of logs and what is the life cycle? So you have service logs created from AWS. You have maybe web application logs from web servers or web apps, which are constantly creating user logs. Then you have server logs. So all the server activities or any kind of activities happening on AWS as components. And all the logs are dumped into S3, and the glue crawler is used with an ATL to update or create partitions, and then objects of Glue data catalog, and then creating a partition history and updating the data log. And Athena would read from the data catalog, and based on the information that is got from the catalog, which has the schema information, we'll read the schema and then we'll go to the S3 bucket to query the data. So this is the way log analysis lifecycle of any data access lifecycle from Athena works along with the data catalog. So this was about the architecture and the high-level introduction to Athena, and we will wind up the chapter here, and then we'll join us in the next.